There are a number of obstacles. I would probably look back on my time starting saying I was perhaps a bit naive about the amount of work that would be needed. I spoke to a number of alumni, and they all said a couple of things. It will be very, very tough on your home life and your work-life balance. And I'm married, and we now tend to think of it not as it's sort of a work-life MBA balance. You need to get all three right, because the EMBA adds an additional part. And I think that getting that balance right is very, very tricky, and probably the most challenging part. All of our other halves are beginning to get to know each other on the EMBA, because even as a simple thing as doing a TC and having people in the background, and actually a lot of them have met, because the easiest thing to do is actually bring your partner into the programme. And recently we met one of our famous alumni, Eben Upton, who basically said in an informal event that his wife got 50% of the EMBA, because that's how it works. You have to build it into that sort of triad of sort of life, work and EMBA. The challenge is family. I think that's one major challenge. And balancing that around the workload is a huge challenge. I think the second challenge is actually role models. How many role models do we see that are on the C-suite, on the executive board, who are women and who have done MBAs? And flexibility is the key. And the reason flexibility is the key is because if you're trying to get that balance, you've got a busy work life, you've got a busy home life, you may well have a family, or you're thinking about having a family. You need to be able to vary the workload at different points over the life cycle of the course. Our course here is 20 months, so I think that it allows that, because the weekend structure allows that. I think the challenge, though, can be in any university structure that there is only a certain amount of flexibility that can be built into a system. So you have to plan. You have to plan ahead, and you also have to be aware that circumstances change. I think in anyone's life, circumstances change. When you are, the average age for our course is probably about 34, I would guess. So that's a point in someone's life where lots of things are going to happen. If you look at the number of people who are at university who are undergrads and female, it's dominated by women. So it's 55% women in undergrad courses versus 45% across the country. Cambridge is somewhat different, and I think Cambridge numbers are 47% women versus 53% male. But we don't see anywhere near those figures when you get to more an executive MBA programme. Why is that happening? I'm not 100% sure. I would say that the lack of role models is probably part of it. And I'd probably quite controversially say that there is somewhat of an old boys club, that you can see that the courses tend to be full of men. And also, but then that may have a knock-on effect that people who are trying to aspire to the C-suite roles tend to be male-dominated as well. In the future, men may well face the sort of similar parenting challenges of being able to take a year off, and therefore that will be a problem that perhaps is existing now, but in the future may well be something that actually may turn around. So it's going to be a challenge for, I think, anyone undertaking these courses in the next decade.